I don't know about you, but the most frustrating thing for me in the world of being a drummer who records themselves is navigating around my studio to adjust where my kick mic is, for example, or trying to find my drum key that I dropped for the millionth time, and my in-ear monitors are still plugged in. So when I walk away from the unit, poof, I get the head jolt of the century. So when Xvive got in touch saying they wanted to send me this wireless unit, the first thing I said was, and yes, I really want a wireless system, as I'm always walking around and having a massive jolt to the head as my IEMs are still plugged in. The second thing was whether I could give a completely honest and transparent review of the product. As they were happy with that, I was more than delighted to do a video, and you can be sure that this is an unbiased, unedited by their opinions, straight up review of the product. In this video, I'll review the product from a drummer's perspective, break down the details of what you'll need to do to get this thing working, and just generally give my honest first impressions. So, before we go into how it works, I know what you'll all be worried about straight off the bat: latency. So, let's deal with that. This unit has less than 5 milliseconds latency, so you don't need to worry about a thing and won't even feel it. Hey, and if you rush, like a lot of drummers, you'll be 5 milliseconds closer to the grid. I'm just joking. I'm sure you won't notice it. They say anywhere between 5 and 10 milliseconds is generally acceptable for most musicians. After 10 milliseconds, you'll definitely notice the difference. So Xvive has got this in a good spot and an excellent spot for the price. The other thing to mention, which some of you may be concerned about, is these will only give you a mono mix, so you won't be able to hear in stereo. This is something I couldn't care less about, but I know some people do, so thought I should mention it. With 90 feet of range, unless you're playing massive stadiums or festivals, and then there'd be a monitor guy anyway, you're going to be able to play at pretty much any small to medium-sized venue or theatre with this, and there won't be any issues. For the price, there's not much better. And as I say, if you're playing super massive shows, there'll be a monitor guy anyway who'll give you a belt pack. So, I'd say this is perfect right up until superstardom. The next thing would be battery life. Most tests say you've got more than 5 hours of battery life with this unit, and charging it for only half an hour will give you an hour of battery life. It'll take 2.5 hours to fully charge, and that'll get you to the 5-hour mark. Similar to before, this will work for pretty much any musician who isn't at the level of superstardom yet. I have had to do a few 3-hour shows in my time, and doing one of them with Soundcheck 2 all on one charge may mean I'd start to worry. But generally speaking, most musicians will not be playing super long shows. So for me, this doesn't really matter either. The final thing on this train of thought is the radio frequency. The X4, like all affordably priced wireless systems, uses 2.4 gigahertz. In the UK, I don't know about abroad, this is the license-free channel, and you may recognize it as the home of Wi-Fi. It's part of the radio frequency spectrum allocated by regulatory bodies for unlicensed use, making it a popular choice for wireless IEM systems that aren't super expensive. And this means you can use it anywhere in the UK without any worries at all. If you are getting closer to the level of stardom, you may want to opt for something with a license so that you can guarantee you won't get any interference. This is often referred to as Channel 38 in the UK. And there is even such a thing as the interleaved spectrum, where you have to pay per frequency per day. As mentioned, this won't matter to most of you, and if you're getting the big gigs already, you'll know the sound guy will have thought all of this through, so you can just turn up and play. So, for all intents and purposes, this is absolutely fine, and you can expect this with any IEM system that isn't super expensive. It's just worth mentioning so you know exactly what you're getting. At this point in the story, I need to update you. So, all my tests so far were when I had my computer plugged into the interface by my desk, just here, behind this fan. I have 2 main interfaces in my studio that I use. Now, the other interface, on the other side of the room, is less than 3 meters away from my router, which Xvive says in the manual is too close to not get interference. Fair enough, and that you'll need to be 3 meters or more away from the router in order to have a clean signal. Fine. Well, my interface, on the other side of the room, is within 3 meters of the router, and the router is stuck on the wall and can't be moved. Therefore, the audio quality, whilst being absolutely fantastic at this interface, isn't great at that interface because I'm too close to the router. So the trade-off here is whether I accept a little bit of fuzz and distortion in my in-ear mix so I can walk around and teach without any cables, or just continue to use the cabled wires so I can have great audio quality. I suppose during a gig, you won't really ever be this close to a router, and so it won't be much of an issue. Most of the time not. Great, so now we've sieved through all those who care about that and they've all clicked off already. Basically, all supermassive musicians and people who have a router right next to their drum kit. So, let's get into how this thing works and what we can use it for. Out of the box, you get a transmitter, which plugs into your monitor out, either on your interface or on the desk if you're playing live, and a receiver, which can go on your belt, commonly referred to as a belt pack. Your IEMs will be plugged into the belt pack, meaning you can get up and run anywhere that's 90 feet away and it'll still work. Xvive are also kind enough to provide an XLR to jack converter in the box, so I can plug this straight in to the interface monitor out without having to buy anything new. It goes on the transmitter like this. To have everything wireless in this teaching environment would have just been so perfect. I can bring that interface over here so I don't have interference issues, but then I'd have to rerun the cables all across my studio, which maybe would be sensible. And I know you're probably thinking, why don't I use this interface here? But basically the preamp sound is great and it doesn't have as many channels, so there's that. They also provide a charging cable, so as long as you've got a spare USB charging port available, you've got everything you need. Just make sure you charge it after every show, so you don't have to worry about a thing. The belt pack / receiver has a great design too. It's got a volume knob and then this channel button. Essentially, just make sure your transmitter and the receiver are the same channel, and that's all you need to do. But there are 6 channels available if you need to try a different one. I tried all the different channels when I was close to the router, and none of them made a difference, I'm sorry to say. That doesn't mean they don't work, it just means it didn't solve my router issue. You can also hook up multiple receivers to a single transmitter. But if you do that, just know everyone using that transmitter would have the same mix. So, for what I need this for, my own mix and wireless system for live, great. And to be able to navigate my studio cable free would have been absolutely perfect. It's got great sound, great range, great battery life, and I can always charge it in between soundcheck and the show if I need to. It's super easy to set up and has next to no latency. It's just the Wi-Fi router issue for me. So, as mentioned, for everyone beneath the level of superstardom, or whoever doesn't have a router right next to their kit that they can't move, this is a great product at a seriously good price. In fact, in the UK, I would go so far as to say it's the best budget in-ear monitoring system available on the market. For me, right now, unless I start recabling my studio, which I guess I could do, it's not quite right. I can't complain for a second with the audio quality at this interface, but just know with wireless systems, it is quite complicated and can cause a bit of a nightmare if you haven't really researched it. I hope this helps, and thank you Xvive for sending me this.